I'm Jared. Welcome to Everyday and Adventure. Today I've got a story for you. Now, this was a few years ago in a little town in Kansas called Riverton. And um, so at that time, I was fishing every single day for a year. It was a goal of mine to work on my fishing skills. I spent every single day of the year um, fishing. And I have a good friend. His name is Dalton. And Dalton and I, on this particular trip, went out in my small flat bottom boat. I had a 16 horse tie mud motor on the back of it. If you're not familiar with mud motors, it's like a regular horizontal shaft engine attached to what is essentially a drive shaft with like an 8-foot tail of drive shaft ran through a tube. The tube's got a rudder on it and a prop at the end of it. So you're steering that entire assembly when you go to maneuver your boat. And they're really good for as the name entails, mud and weeds, and very shallow water. So this boat was good for getting in and out of really, really tight, shallow spots. And I had got this set up to play around out on the river in Riverton, because a lot of the spots to get to some of the fishing spots that we normally went to, you pretty much had to do it on foot or canoe or kayak into. So we drive out to the lake there in Riverton and set the boat in the water. Weather's pretty nice. Do a little bit of fishing, start heading up river, stop, do a little bit more fishing, head a little further up river, get a couple miles up river, stop, do a little bit of swimming. So, sky's overcast. It's not particularly, like, there's a little bit of water here and there, just sprinkles. And tornado siren starts going off. And so we start hauling back to the boat dock so we can get the boat out of the water and get home, where it's safe, or safer than being out exposed in the elements with the tornado warning. Anyway, we get about to the boat dock, start getting reception on our phones again, look at the data. The data is actually clear for the county that we're in. Apparently apparently the warning wasn't for very long at all. And so we continue fishing. And so we start fishing again, start heading downriver this time. A little bit of luck, caught a couple small fish, nothing major. Do a little bit of trolling through the lake, and then start getting into some of the shallow spots. Get pretty far downriver, a few miles, and for that boat, a few miles is a lot. You know, with the mud motor, it would only do 15, 16 miles an hour. So it starts raining. This time it's raining a fair amount more than it was before. Not just sprinkling anymore. Start getting a little bit of the rainwater starts collecting in the boat. You know, and we're heading back slowly and just fishing spots as we go. And then Now it really starts coming down, and so start moving at a little bit more higher pace. Boat's getting, it's getting a fair amount of water in it, and finally go to pull the plug out to siphon some of the water out on plane. That doesn't work. It never starts pulling the water back out because the boat isn't high enough on plane at that speed to get it to drain. Even though that hole shape is designed to start pulling the water back out when you're going fast enough. Anyway, so that doesn't work. Put the plug back in. Start moving again, and then rain really starts coming down. So we kind of pull into this little area off to the side to let the weather kind of pass over us a bit, and stop, take a leak, grab something to drink, maybe eat a little bit, let the weather pass over us a bit, do a little bit more fishing, bail some of the water out. So we've got the water pretty clear out of the boat at this point. Go to start the engine back up. The engine's a pull start only. Pull starter brakes, cord brakes. So I spent about 5 minutes looking around in the boat, looking through all my tackle and everything to see if I can find like a pair of pliers or crescent wrench, vice grips, whatever. Finally end up finding a crescent wrench at the bottom of the boat. It had been sitting in the boat for at least a year, so it was just super crusty and rusty, and it probably took about 15 minutes to get the crescent wrench to start working. Pulled the bolts out of the cover, pulled one of my shoelaces out. My shoelaces were paracord, and so I put the paracord around the starter, hold it out so I can get the handle back on. Couldn't find the handle in the boat, the pull start handle in the boat anywhere, and so ended up having to. What I ended up doing was taking the paracord, holding it out, setting the cover back on, using the crescent wrench to put the bolts back in, or at least enough of them to where it'll hold the cover in place. Then I ended up tying the cord off to the crescent wrench, and as I said before, the crescent wrench is super crusty and it's got rust all over it, and the rust makes really sharp edges, so it did not make a very good pull cord handle. However, I did get the engine started. Got the engine started. Rain starts coming down, like not a flash flood like we have out here where it's just insane amounts of water, but it was thunderstorming pretty good. By the time we started making it out of there, and as we're going along, it's really getting it's filling the boat pretty full of water at this point. Boat's riding pretty low, so I mean we're bailing. I've got Dalton bailing while I'm just full throttle trying to get this thing home. I've still got a couple miles to go, and the boat it's getting pretty full of water. Finally get to the dock after a couple miles of dealing with this, trying to get it bailed. Finally got to the dock. Now I've got it tied off, and we're just bailing water out of this boat. Now the rain had stopped, and we had got the boat most of the way bailed out at this point. So go up to the car, the SUV I was driving, go to crank it, start it up, nothing happens. Pop the hood. Somebody had cut my battery terminals off and stolen my battery out of my car. Now this is a place that I had parked many times before and left unlocked. I've always had a bad habit of accidentally leaving vehicles unlocked, especially like when I was boating, because if I fell in the water and lost my keys, I've got no way to start it. It's not like an old truck where I can just hotwire it. This is a fairly modern Lexus, so it would have been a nightmare had I lost the keys for whatever reason. So I mean, anyway, so I grabbed the battery out of the boat that we used for the trolling motor and put it in the Lexus. I also stole the terminal ends off of the trolling motor that I had, because they were just automotive battery terminals. So I clamped all that back together, got that working. Battery ends were short, so I always had problems, connection problems after that time. Getting the Lexus started every once in a while, I'd need to wiggle the cables to make it crank. But that was kind of like a just play around 4-wheel drive, so it wasn't like a daily or anything. Anyway, so we finally got the boat out of the water, let it drain forever. So when we had gotten back to the lake with the boat was literally about 3/4 the way full of water. It was just there was just so much water in it, and surprised we didn't have. I'm really actually kind of surprised we didn't end up letting it sink, or have to pull off to the side and just wait the weather out to let it to where we could actually bail it on the shore. So anyway, that was the time me and Dalton went out, almost sunk the boat, and had to deal with tornado sirens and a stolen battery and broken starter cord. And so now that was, to me, one of the funnest times. It was one of the funnest times I've ever had out on the water, out fishing. One of the best experiences I've ever had. Like, overcoming obstacles sometimes can be really fun, and I'm glad I have that memory with someone who I love like a brother. Unfortunately, Dalton passed away the last couple months. A couple months ago, Dalton passed away, and this was an experience that I was extremely glad to have with him specifically. But because you gotta sometimes you gotta remember, like, hard times as good times, and that was the guy I wanted in my corner for that specific event. And it wouldn't have been the same without him, and I miss him a lot. But we all lose people sometimes. Anyway, have a good one. Hope you enjoyed the story. I know it was a bit boring. Anyway, take it easy.